Ready, hot!
From the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching an OU Update. I'm Jenni Carlson. Travis Haney joins us on the phone to break down Oklahoma's football non-conference schedule. Travis, there's a marquee game on this non-conference schedule, but it doesn't exactly get off to a rousing start. Talk about this opening game on the road for the Sooners.
No, I think this was a big challenge for Joe Castiglione and those at OU to try and figure out the scheduling mess. And I guess it's the second straight year that the Big 12 has been through this, and OU was put in a particularly difficult situation to me because, as you know, Jenni, TCU is supposed to be on the schedule as a non-conference game, so suddenly that becomes a conference game, and it leaves OU needing 2 games. So Joe and those around campus were in pretty dire straits and having to reach out to a lot of schools, and frankly, they just didn't get very many good deals in return. Schools weren't wanting to come back to Norman for a home-and-home. It was going to make travel difficult either this season or next season. And you mentioned the one marquee game on the schedule, which is the October 27th game against Notre Dame. It's been set for years. That kind of created some headaches as well because they are going to Notre Dame in 2013, so they couldn't schedule another long road trip in 2013 to complicate that year's schedule. So it was difficult, and what you see is the result of a road game to start the season, the first time that I found since 1994 that they played a true road game. That was at Syracuse way back then. They played a couple of neutral field games, the BYU game. They played Northwestern in Chicago, but this is the first road game at UTEP, which it's kind of surprising. When I first heard about it on Friday, it was a bit surprising, but that's just the way things have played out.
Yeah, and Sooners will get 2 home games in exchange for that one road game, so that's definitely a carrot for them. My only question before we get to this Notre Dame matchup, Florida A&M, they going to bring the marching band with them?
I don't know. The word out of Tallahassee is, I don't know if you'd heard about it, but there's some sort of hazing incident, and a drum major was killed and something that went on last football season. So the band is currently suspended, which is unfortunate because they are highly entertaining. I've seen them a few times, and they're great. So hopefully they'll be reinstated before the fall. But, yeah, that would be one of the draws of that September 8th game against FAMU.
No Texas A&M marching band coming back to Owen Field anytime soon. FAMU might be able to provide. Okay, let's talk Notre Dame. You mentioned that this has been a long time in the works, this matchup between such 2 storied programs. You know, I know there's a lot of football to be played before you get to that Notre Dame game. It's on October 27th, some conference games even, but this has got to be a game that people are just chomping at the bit about in Norman.
It's a big name game, certainly, and, you know, they've talked about playing these sorts of games. Florida State was the most recent home-and-home series. Tennessee's on the books after Notre Dame. They've done a great job of scheduling these games and making them happen. Alabama was one that was talked about for years and years after it was played, the home-and-home. So this is the next in that series of marquee sorts of games. And as I said, they just were really not going to bend and change even the date of that game. They really wanted it set at that time. And I think a late-season non-conference game, the way that it'll play out, should get big-time publicity, and Notre Dame's expected to be even better than it was last year, and it seems like Brian Kelly has that program heading in the right direction.
Lastly, you mentioned where that is on their schedule. Notre Dame, an independent, they don't have to worry about conference schedules, but what about that for Oklahoma? They're going to have played conference games. They're going to have to stop and then play Notre Dame. Does that cause any problems for the Sooners?
I don't think it's all that tricky. Frankly, I don't know that their conference season will have really got it heated up until after that. It looks like the middle of November is really the stretch run, the way it's been laid out by the Big 12 and the schools. You know, that's kind of when it's really going to get going in terms of conference play. So, you know, there's some big games, and Texas is obviously one of them, but, you know, I don't think it's a big deal to step out of conference at that point.
All right, thanks, Travis. Sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.